What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday and welcome back to the channel. My name is Noxy and I'm just your average nerd. Uh, Today we're going to be going over some of the parts that I got for my build, my new gaming build here. I've got a handful of them stacked up here, and I have more along the sides right over here. It's going to be a pretty powerful build. Might be a little bit overkill, but wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be an enthusiast if I really didn't want to go balls to the wall with this build. So I'm going to be using a Thermaltake tower case, the Tower 900, right here. It's a hefty case. It really is. It's 36 inches tall. Like 16.9 wide and like 19 deep or something like that. Something like that. 3 panels of tempered glass that are all removable via these little thumb screws here, and it's nice and tinted and polished over. So right now it's very tough to see in the case. However, once everything's set up and done, the lights, the RGB, that's all gonna pop. So I'm really not too worried about that. How it's gonna look. In the very back of the case, there's plenty of room for cable management. Really tons and tons of room for cable management, and plenty of room for radiator support or just general air cooling support. I prefer water cooling because a little bit of me hates myself, but also it's a lot of fun. It can be challenging, but it's a lot of fun. So we're gonna have 2 dual 560 radiators, 80 millimeter thick in the back. They are these Alpha Cool monster radiators. In my current build, I'm using some Alpha Cool radiators. I'm using I believe a 360 and a 240 at both 45 millimeters thick, to keep my current rig nice and cool, despite the issues it's having. That I will get to on another day, another video. We'll work on repairing that, hopefully. But for now, this is going to be the behemoth case that we're going to be working with. All panels are removable. Even under this tempered glass, there's these mesh intake panels. Those are removable via thumb screw. And something I found out the other day that I apparently wasn't aware about. The motherboard tray is completely modular as well. So is the wire pass-throughs. So both trays can be removed, which is really cool. I'm really excited for that because it's going to make it a lot easier to build in the case. Actually, outside of the case. I get to build outside of the case and then put it in. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about all the cable management in the back and how well designed this case is for water cooling. So there's 2 pre-mounts for pumps and radiators right off, or excuse me, just the pumps and reservoirs right off the back. There's radiator support in the back with magnetic dust filters on pretty much every single intake you could imagine. So I'm not going to be too worried about dust. I'm going to be using the radiators in push-pull configuration as dual intake. I'm going to be able to mount 2 140s in the back, and I'm going to use both of those as intake. That'll actually cool the back of my motherboard tray. And then I'm going to have 2 exhausts, one at the top, right up in this area here, and then there's another in the back on the other side. So I'm going to be using those as exhaust. There's a magnetic dust filter on top too, and this whole top comes out. Due to the way this case is set, all the input outputs actually come out from the top. So this is removable, and the cables will come up to the top and then out through the back, which is going to make things really nice. When I move it back over here, it's going to keep all my wire management nice and clean, so I don't have to worry about those pesky wires showing that are already currently showing. I'm not too thrilled about it, but I'm going to have to fix that up on another day. For processor, we're going with the Ryzen 9 5950X. So I've been wanting to go to Ryzen for a little while. I built my wife a Ryzen machine last summer. Runs great. No issues with it whatsoever. So I've been wanting to try the Ryzen, and I went with the Ryzen 9 5950X specifically for the core count and thread count and processing speed. It's not an easy chip to get, so if you do get it, you're pretty lucky. This chip is supposed to be able to boost to about 4.9. So once everything's set up, we're going to see how far we can push it. As long as we still get a boot and see how good of a chip we got. So really excited to try Ryzen for the first time. It's going to go in an X570 motherboard from MSI, the Meg Unify. Very, very hefty board, very sturdy. I was actually kind of surprised when I picked it up to the weight of the board. There's plenty of PCI support, and I'm going to be running dual graphics cards and Crossfire, so need all the support I can get, and I'm also going to be running an AverMedia 4K capture card internal, so I need as many of those PCI lanes as I can, and it also has extreme support for M.2 NVMe drives, so we've even got a couple of nice power shrouds right above them, and heat sinks to help keep it cool while running. I'm going to be running two Samsung 970 EVOs. They're both 2 terabytes apiece, so we're going to have plenty of space for gaming. On top of that, I'm also going to be running two of these guys, the 870 EVO, but it's only 1 terabyte. So we're going to be running two of those. One of them is going to be my boot drive. I know a terabyte's a bit excessive for a boot drive, but I got a solid deal on each of them, so I decided to go with the full terabyte, and that way I can have plenty of extra software on that boot drive and on my secondary SSD, while leaving my 2 NVMEs free just for games. Just for games. So I'm going to have 4 terabytes with the storage just for games, and then 2 terabytes for my actual OS and any extra applications that I want to use, like video editing software. Probably put OBS on there, Streamlabs, Discord, that kind of thing, all on my small SSDs. And then for backups, they're still in their magnetic case. They're Seagate 10 terabyte, 7200 RPM drives. I have 3 of them that I'm going to set up in a RAID 0 format, so I can get the maximum performance out of all of them and have a nice 30 gig drive, 30 terabyte drive. 30 terabytes. Why would anyone? Why? Just because. That is why you need 30 terabytes. It's just because. But no, really. Also going to be using it to back up my wife's computer when necessary, and also what will be streaming rig. My current rig turned into a streaming rig. So that's my storage, and that's my board and processor. Has plenty of USB support, which I'm grateful for, because I tend to use too many USB devices, and it has the savior of all, a pre-installed IO shield. I I I was speechless when I saw that. I'm like, wait, it's pre-installed? I mean, I don't have to screw with that damn IO shield. I don't have to worry about cutting myself on that freaking IO shield, which, by the way, has to go on the top, which is just a little weird. But no, it's pre-installed, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm just gonna pull the motherboard tray out, pop the motherboard on. That's good to go. And then I can start routing all cables at another point. I don't have to, I don't have to worry about having a tight space because I can have my motherboard and CPU block, which, by the way, is this nice little EK block. There we go. EK block from it's an AM4 EK block. I've used a lot of their blocks in the past. I've always been happy with them. Great quality blocks. So that'll be set up. All of that'll be set up. I'll have my cable set, and then I can just put the motherboard tray back in. That's going to make things infinitely more easy for me. Radiators obviously get mounted in the back, and then the granddaddy right here. We're going to be running two RX 6900 XTs. Two RX 6900 XTs from Sapphire. So they're the Nitro Plus. Very excited. I was lucky to find a couple of them. They were not easy to find because they're out of stock pretty much everywhere. And then you gotta deal with scalpers and whatnot. So they're also going to be water cooled by this big ski right here. Big ski ice dragon. It is an RGB block. I do have two of them, so they'll both get installed onto the GPUs. I'll have the motherboard tray already back in, and then I'll install those. From there, I'll take my measurements because I'm going to be doing hardline tube. In the front, everything's going to be hardline tube. So that's going to look really, really clean. And that's my goal. It's just a nice, clean build. So two separate loops, two separate hardline loops, and in the back will be softline just to make management a little bit easier and draining and bleeding the loops a little bit easier. My drain ports will all be set up back there out of sight. Power supply also is tucked away back there out of sight, and it's actually given pretty a significant amount of room. So you don't have to worry about, trying to squeeze your hands in tight to get all your cables connected, which I am quite thankful for. The case itself has a 5.5-inch bay, so I did pick up a fan controller just for my case fans. I'm going to be running 4 case fans. The rest are radiator fans. I wanted to be able to keep an eye on their RPM and overall temp with the fan controller. And then I also picked up some custom sleeve cables. I got 2 sets because I need extra power for the CPU and extra power for the GPUs. In fact, these GPUs, when I got them in, I was looking at the box. I haven't opened them yet, and I was kind of holding myself back from it. And I'm reading, and it says recommended 750 watt power supply. Oh, shit. 750 watts just for a card? And I know the Ryzen 9, it's a 105 TDP. I'm like, we're already well over the 800 here. I ordered a 1200 watt platinum, thankfully. Thank my lucky stars that I did that. So I don't have to worry about powering, but for 2 of these cards, it recommends 1000 watts. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. So you got 1000 watts for those guys, 105 watts for that, and we're cutting it kind of close, at least theoretically. So we're gonna see exactly what the full draws are on the GPUs. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be fine with the 1200 watt platinum, including room for overclocking, which we'll be doing at least just to see how far we can push it. I'm not gonna be running it consistently at those kind of metrics at all. I it, it's not worth it, and I don't foresee myself getting that much of a performance boost off of it. Now these custom sleeved cables, since I did have to get 2 of them, they are white. They're actually a really nice white. And they come with their own cable combs, and these cable combs are actually RGB. So these cables are going to be RGB, fans are going to be RGB, the motherboard has some RGB, the CK block has RGB, the water blocks have RGB. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, which also has RGB, because why not? We're going to be using, let me get this right. Let me get this right. There we go. We're going to be using, yeah, 128 gig of RAM, 3200 megahertz. Very excited for it. Was thinking about water cooling the RAM, but don't really need to do that, and I'm kind of lazy. So RGB RAM, RGB blocks up the wazoo. The fans here, these are Thermaltake Pure Plus 14, so they're 140 millimeter fans. All of those RGB, and there's going to be, I believe, 20 fans. Because the radiators can hold 4 per side. Push-pull configuration gives us 8 per radiator, 16 on the 2 radiators, plus the 4 case fans, so a total of 20 RGB fans. It's gonna look nice. It's gonna look nice, especially with this tinted tempered glass. I think it's gonna kind of maintain everything without brightening up the room significantly. Which I know my wife will be thankful for. But still making it bright internally, and I mean that's really what we're looking for. So pretty much everything RGB, and then for the power supplies RGB as well, because why not? Just why not? It's a Thermaltake power supply. The 1200 watt platinum I'm stoked for. I think it's gonna do really well. And then finally, just leave these up here for now. Finally, because it's gonna be 2 separate loops, we're gonna use 2 separate fluids. Now, for new water coolers, I don't recommend trying this at all. It's not easy. It's for experienced water coolers. I've been building for a while. I've been water cooling for a while. It's actually going to take running the loop, each loop, with a certain formula to completely clean out the radiators, the blocks, the pumps, the reservoir, all the tubes of anything that might be just sitting there, any imperfections that might be left over from manufacturing, anything from, any of the fittings, that can all get flushed. We run that for 24 hours. We take apart the loop. We drain the loop, obviously, before taking it apart. That's pretty important. Always remember to drain the loop before just taking things apart. We'll drain it, take it apart, let everything dry completely over 24 hours, reassemble it, and then we have to be very careful and do this very slowly and meticulously. We are going to fill each loop with this Primo Chill view formula. The CPU is going to be blue, and actually, if I can get it to look nice, it's kind of hard in the bottle here. It has this nice shimmering effect. So we're going to add the blue here in to the CPU loop. Shake this one up, and then we're going to add this bright UV paint into the GPU loops. Since there's 2 cards, we're going to be using quite a bit of fluid. There's 2 radiators, a giant amount of fluid. So I'm definitely hoping I do have more of these. I don't have just these 2 bottles because I know this is not going to be nearly enough per loop. But I'm hoping the 3 bottles that I do have per color should be sufficient. And I just have to go very, very slowly. Make sure no air bubbles get trapped during the process. Basically fill it up like 3/4 of the way, run the pump for like 5 seconds, shut it off, refill it, let it sit for a second, again 5 seconds, so on and so forth until the loop is bled. And then once the loop's bled, I can cap it off and I will be set to go. And then for finishing touches, we do have a few Corsair Rgb strips and a Corsair, what is this called exactly? Oh, it's the Commander Pro. We're going to be having that in the back with the Rgb strips. Maybe one here, one here, and then one on the bottom, I think. We'll set those up, and everything's going to be routed to the Commander Pro in the back to control the RGB. I know I'm going to need IQ, which is fine because I have a Corsair keyboard, so it's really not that big of a deal. And then, as for pumps, we're using the XT5. Right. 5 RGB from Corsair. So I still have yet to open up either of my pump and reservoir combos, and they are also RGB. What isn't in this case at this point, I think is the better question. What is not RGB? I don't know. Not much. I think I did a good job with the RGB. So we're going to be starting this build very shortly now that everything's in. Actually, the GPU block, those just arrived today. They were made in China. I've already looked at the directions. I am baffled because it looks like it's trying to tell me how to install a CPU block onto a motherboard. I know how to do that. I've done that. That's not the issue. This is a new block going onto a GPU. So looks like I'm going to be doing excuse me. Looks like I'm going to be doing some hunting for some instructions on those GPU blocks because I don't want to screw them up. They already come with the thermal pads, thank God, and I've got plenty of thermal paste at home, so I'm really not worried about that. And that, I believe, is everything. Everything. So we'll look at getting this built here in the very near future. My next day off isn't until Wednesday. I theoretically like to start before then, just because that's me, but because I will be filming it, makes it a little bit more challenging. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube as soon as I've got everything set. I will probably upload it in parts. Installation of a few parts here, installation of a few parts here. That way, if anyone's trying to pick up tips or tricks or is confused about certain aspects of PC building, you don't have to try and search through an entire video for it. you can go to the section or the specific video that would pertain to whatever questions you might have. And hell, if you want to watch them all, go ahead and watch them all, because I'm excited. I'm so excited for this build. It's been a work in progress for, or at least a thought in progress for quite some time, and now it's starting to come to fruition. So that being said, we're gonna wrap this one up. If anyone has any questions about any of the parts at all, feel free to comment. I'll try and make a list and leave it in the description of the video for everyone who's wondering what parts I'm using exactly, or they didn't catch exactly which brand. I'll try and leave a list in the description. And until next time, my name is Noxy, and we will catch you later.